Ron Johnson from Senate Homeland Security. Senator, a pleasure to have you on. Thanks for joining us. Okay, Senator, talk to us about these government whistleblowers telling your office top FBI officials told FBI agents to stall and delay looking into Hunter Biden's laptop until after the 2020 election. The FBI had a laptop since 2019. Who were these whistleblowers?
Hello, guys. It's David the Boss again. Another beautiful day here in Alabama. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Well, I saw this random news story pop up. As you guys know, I don't even watch the news anymore. I used to watch Fox News all the time. I was up on the news like every day. I knew what was going on. I mean, just all of it. I thought it was very important to keep up with the news back in the day. And I only watched Fox News. At that time, I don't know if I was a believer, but I was trying to believe that somebody could possibly be on the television or be a politician and maybe be trying to fight the system, and maybe our Constitution would win. Maybe that was how the truth would win in the world. There'd be the Constitution and we would prevail against the evil, wicked people. And somehow or another, this billionaire that had all these problems staring at us in the face. I mean, the fact that he was a braggart and a billionaire, for one, and just, his daughter marries Jared Kushner and he's friends with the whole Israeli. I don't know how I was able to sort of compartmentalize my brain for a short little period of time there. I actually voted for Donald Trump. Now, I wasn't always that way. I mean, I was raised to be very against politics. I didn't believe. I hate politics. I've always, even the organization of Jehovah's Witnesses was very political, and I hated that about it. And I knew, I guess, even then, that it was not scriptural to be that political. But, you always play this little trick in your mind. You're like, well, there's a little corruption, but, they're doing their best. Maybe somebody's trying to, maybe some of these politicians know that everything's corrupt. There's nothing they can do, but they're trying. Oh, they're trying. We got to support them or something. And we play that game. So my entire life, I never voted for anybody. Never. Didn't believe in politics. I didn't vote for anybody. But I voted for Donald Trump. Well, I'd probably still be trying to support him or rooting for him, except that halfway through his presidency, he starts some stuff that just started really boggling my mind. And I had to really come to grips with it. I had to stop and think about what was going on. They seemed to be on our side on some things that kind of mattered, and everybody hated him, and there was the impeachment, and that riled us up. I mean, they know how to rile us up. They know how to make us believe. They got to do some real stuff. And it surprises me that I fell for it for a short time, probably about maybe 3 or 4 years, because 9/11 and I knew that was wrong and fake, and they organized everything. But I guess it was still, like I said, this compartmentalizing and hoping and whatever against hope. But when the whole PANDEMIC thing came along and, la-di-da-di-da, it just, boom. I mean, we could go over that again, but I don't think you guys want to hear that. We've already talked about that over and over again. But when I just out of the blue this popped up, I thought, well, let me just take a little looky see, because I've been hearing all this stuff about the going in there at Mar-a-Lago and this top secret classified information that supposedly Trump has. And the whole time I've been thinking, well, this is again staged, because they want the whole world to see, which I've been saying for a while now, that the whole impeachment thing, twice they tried to impeach him, the whole January 6th thing was all a big HOAX because they want to create a scenario in the world. These guys are all actors. Biden's the old, Mr. Magoo stumbling around, bumping into walls, falling downstairs. We got all the actors, right? Adam Schiff, and everybody hates this. Like, what the heck is going on? These people, they're just so corrupt and I mean, blatant, evil stuff, bringing terrorists across the border and just dumping billions of dollars worth of weapons over there for ISIS to just pick it up. And see, I really think that there are probably several reasons why they have to do all this. One, they've got to do their dirty work. And there's no way we're not going to find out about it, right? Financing ISIS and all. So we're going to find out about it. So I guess part of the reason that they have these two sides is one side's the bad guy and they do all the bad stuff. And, the American people say, what the heck? I mean, they can't just blatantly just say, well, you know what? That's it. We're going to be evil now. All of us, everybody in government, we're going to go out there and start shooting everybody. And because what would happen, I mean, that's kind of what they're doing anyway. But if they didn't have a other side that pretends to be against it and they're fighting for it for like years, they're fighting for this stuff. And of course, we go back to the days of Reagan when there was the Contra thing and the Nixon, impeachment and all this other stuff. And none of this stuff ever gets figured out. They just go in and, Ford pardoned Nixon. They're just pardon them, right? Like they keep saying over and over again, well, presidents can do whatever they want. Yeah, we can try to arrest them, but they get away with it because they're the president. And so all this is going on. And so I was kind of interested in this, and I clicked on it, and I saw this guy, Ron Johnson. And the title was about the Hunter Biden probe, but I don't know whether I got dyslexia or I don't know what word you would use, but I immediately thought it was talking about those classified documents. And so I clicked on it to see what the latest was. Well, this little video wasn't about the classified documents. It was about the Hunter Biden laptop. And I watched the whole thing, which is very rare for me, as I said, lately. But just to show you just how not up on politics I really am at this point. When I saw this Ron Johnson, remember, there's a lot of politicians, a lot of senators, governors, people that's been in the news. And my little mind just kind of confused this guy, Ron Johnson, with Rick Scott. I don't know why. Maybe there's some sort of similarity with the names or whatever, the way they look or something. But I thought this was the governor of Florida that prior to the DeSantis guy that's down there now. So as I'm looking at him as a senator, I think in Wisconsin now, he's a senator, I'm thinking, wait a minute, how'd this guy get from the governor of Florida to becoming the senator? Because I remember, I think it was Rick Scott, that he didn't run for governor again. He sort of decided he was going to go ahead and just run for senator. So now I'm thinking, and I'm not even sure if he is a senator, Rick Scott, or not, if he made it or didn't make it, because I didn't pay much attention. I probably knew at one point, but I've forgotten. So, but in my mind I was thinking, well, maybe he made it, now he's senator. But then I was, wait a minute, this is Wisconsin. So my mind was trying to figure out what was really going on here. But as I was looking at this, I started thinking, oh, well, what a coinky dink. So why would he say, I don't want to be governor anymore, but I want to be senator? And then ends up, sure enough, getting voted in as senator, and now he's some important guy on the Senate investigating this laptop thing. I don't know what, he's some sort of like the Homeland Security chairman or something. This is a big position in the government. So I had it wrong, but I had it right. In other words, my intuition was telling me that this guy looks so squeaky clean, talks so conservative, and maybe somebody that a lot of Americans could think was a real, honest to goodness person with just a pure heart trying to help us. And yet somehow he rises to this position of this chairman of the Homeland Security. Now, you know darn good and well. Well, now he's not part of the Homeland Security, the DHS or whatever that is. He sits on the United States Homeland Security Committee. And so I guess that's some sort of investigative organization or something. Well, it's still a very important job. But I was thinking Homeland Security is kind of like the CIA or worse than that. You know what I mean? It's like this clandestine organization that's really just ruling over us and the world and in some sort of, spy activity. They're controlling, FEMA and all these other terrible things that we talk about, but nobody seems to understand what's going on anymore. Back when they first started Homeland Security, we thought it was a big deal. Now nobody talks about it. So I guess it's even more secretive now than even the CIA. But now, take a look at this. I want to just read you this real quickly to kind of, in their own words, what they claim this Homeland Security actually is. All right, so this is says Homeland Security. They even got their own little seal up there. It's a very important organization, got their own seal. And it says about DHS, the Department of Homeland Security has a vital mission to secure the nation from many threats we face. This requires the dedication of more than 240,000 employees. It's almost bigger than the government itself, guys. In jobs that range from aviation. What? What does that have to do with aviation? Border security? Well, they're not doing a very good job then. Who's running that? Because they're letting these terrorists over. They've been letting the terrorists over since they started the Homeland Security. So I guess what this organization, department of the government is the Department of destroying the United States Department of the United States government. We're here to just let everybody come over the borders and we're not going to do nothing. And you say, yeah, well, that was Biden. He made this deal where he started bringing them over and, and Obama started that, and Trump was against that, Dave. And I'm sure Ron Johnson's against it. That's why he's on the committee of the United States Senate to look after the stupid Homeland Security to make sure they don't do bad things. Well, so his position is to look good, looks like a conservative guy with a little gray hair. He sits in a seat and he pounds his fist at the Senate hearings. He says, why don't you answer our questions? We're watching you, we're investigating you, but the investigation's still going on. Nobody gets nothing done. You think Ron Johnson really is sincere if he is a real person and he thinks he's going to help the world and keep an eye peeled out on the bad guys and what they're doing? Well, then if he is, why doesn't he, when he comes on the shows, like on Fox or whatever, why doesn't he say, yeah, here, I let me tell you, I ain't got no authority to do nothing, and I'm not allowed to even tell you what these guys are doing, because I'm not going to tell you that we're letting in terrorists, that we're literally destroying the farmlands and wiping out the I don't know what they're doing with the weather now. It's like the Dead Sea and the Euphrates River and California. It's all drying up all the way around the world. You think they might be orchestrating that, or is this just some coinkydink that nature just decides to dry up the earth right at the point when they're bringing in the one world government? I don't know, but I have my doubts. So here we got this just perfect guy for the job, a clean-shaven older guy with little gray hair who seems to be very calm and collected and conservative, and he's watching out for us, but he does nothing. He's just a prop. His job is to sound like he's for us, but he does nothing. He doesn't even tell us that terrible things that they're doing. But he has to act like he's, well, see, they don't want us to even talk about Homeland Security. So he's not telling us anything about that. He's not telling us anything about the terrorists that are coming over or the taking down of the farmers in the United States or anything like that, and the great famine that's coming that they're orchestrating. He's not telling us any of that. But what he's telling us, there's some terrible pervert, the president's son, that has a laptop with all kinds of perversion on it, And they're running around making, I mean, they're literally telling us all of the evils that's going on. But see, they want us to know. And it's making us so darn mad that we're just, we want to get rid of that Biden and put him in jail. Remember how we used to say, lock her up, lock her up? Well, now we're going to be saying, lock him up, right? That's what they're going to be chanting. And they're just, pushing this on the American people and riling people up and just shoving it in our face until there are going to be people rioting in the streets demanding that Biden and Hunter Biden go to jail. And we'll forget all about Hillary. And guess what? Hunter Biden will never go to jail, and Biden will never go to jail, and they'll pardon them after they leave office. Probably Trump will come into office and pardon them or something, Well, we've got to move on now, guys, and we can't be bickering, so I'm going to pardon them. Whatever. But you see, all this is really about is they can do all the evil things in the world that they want to do, claim it's the bad guys, then bring in the good guys and have a whole nother era of doing other mischief. And then the other party will come up and start saying, oh, we're pointing the finger at them. They're doing bad things. And then they'll be the bad party. Meanwhile, nothing ever gets fixed. Nothing ever gets resolved. It is only a way to make you believe that you should just don't worry about it. We got people in there that are doing something about this, and they'll eventually investigate this. And one day, we'll have a majority in the Congress and we'll do something about it. And they'll go to jail, doggone it. But they're not going to go to jail. I promise you that. Unless they, pretend that somebody went to jail. Like, remember Epstein? I'm beginning to believe that Epstein was not only just a staged event. I mean, we don't even know if there even were any pedophiles running around. They may have made up the whole, sure, there's pedophiles. I'll tell you a story about some pedophiles here in just a second. Oh, buddy, there's pedophiles. But they're not telling you the real story and who's really involved with the pedophiles. Remember how it used to be the Catholic Church and Jehovah's Witnesses that are full of pedophiles and they don't want you to know about it? Well, they kind of shoved that under the rug, and now it's all about some kid, some president's son that, remember Carter's brother, right? or I think it was Bill Clinton's brother that was, doing drugs and stuff and had some, and it's always the brother and well, he's the bad guy, but Bill's a good guy, and, Bill don't want to put his brother in jail, but he's just a little, crazy, and, we can deal with that. There's a little bad brother thing. We just move on with that. But you see, what they're not telling you is that there was some cocaine business going on that Bill Clinton was in charge of. The financiers of the world were putting him in office first as governor of Arkansas and then as president so that they could run drugs all over the world and destroy our children and destroy the economy. But when you start finding out about these evil people, and it turns out that it's their brothers and their kids, then we start wondering, well, wait a minute, it's just some wayward kid, I guess, right? But it wasn't just some wayward kid. These guys were in charge of the drug cartel, really, of around the world, just as Carter's kids and now we've got Biden's kids involved in the cartel, running around making deals. These are big deals. Just watch this program. But let me share with you what they're hiding. Okay? These big politicians, they're covering that up. You'll never find out what's really going on. So we've got two ways that they cover things up. One, they put bad guys in there that are visibly retarded, senile, or whatever. We let them take the blame. Then we bring in the good guy and say they were bad, but they pardon them, for the betterment of mankind. Nobody ever goes to jail. That's one way. The other way is they say, oh, it wasn't Bill Clinton. It was his wayward brother, right? It wasn't Biden. It's his stupid criminal son. And they're only covering it up because they just don't want to make a scandal. But don't worry, the FBI is investigating it, and one day they'll figure out what's going on. But what's really happening is that Biden himself is running the cartel. The government put him in there. He's the president of the criminal cartel that runs the world. And they're getting away with all this and claiming it's just some wayward brother or son and some corruption at the FBI. That's all it is. Don't worry about it. Trump will come in and solve it all. Well, let me share with you what I just witnessed last night. I am so shocked that literally I wept. I wept for an hour last night. And I'm still very emotional about it because it hurts me so deeply. Let me tell you a story, guys. Please. Let me switch the background here and I'm going to tell you a story. All right. So I want to show you something here. This is a YouTube channel. It's called Rick Fearon. Interesting name, Fear On. I don't know if that's his real last name, but I see a lot of that. You know, people's names having some odd similarity to what they do for a living or whatever. But I'm not doubting this man at all. This man's been doing this for a long, long time. Exposing Jehovah's Witnesses and exposing the pedophilia and the corruption and the evil that's been coming out of that organization. And I want to share this with you, and I'm going to even play a couple of clips or more what this person says. And I don't think they'll mind. I'm going to put a link to this YouTube channel and this particular broadcast, which is called Murder in the Watchtower. 3 Jehovah's Witnesses murdered in North Dakota. And friends, this will shock you. I want to preface this by saying a couple of things, and then I'm going to play a couple of clips and we'll talk about this. Because this is what I was weeping about last night. And I don't think I'll ever be the same again. Even though I knew all of this, but I don't even think I knew the depth of the depravity of the organization called Jehovah's Witnesses. And I know that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to say, oh, come on, Dave, it's just an organization, it's just a church, there's always bad guys in every church and da-da-da-da-da. Well, they answer that argument in the broadcast. I hope all of you will share this Rick Fearon episode, Murder in the Watchtower. I hope you'll click on it and watch the whole thing. It's quite long, but you will be riveted to your seat because this is probably something that, you've heard of Jeffrey Dahmer, who would, go and rape people or have an affair with some guy and then take them home and chop them up and put them in the freezer and then go and eat them and stuff. This is the kind of stuff we're going to share with you today. But you see, what we hear, just like we see Bill Clinton's brother, who was in the news for something about cocaine, we weren't quite sure. They kind of shove it under the rug. We don't know what's going on. Well, he was actually head of a crime syndicate, and his brother was made president to promote this kind of crime cartel all over the world. It's more than what it appears on the surface. And what I'm finding out now, and I've been doing this research myself for a while, but I'm finding that Jehovah's Witnesses are much, much worse than you think. They're a much larger organization than people know. They're kind of clandestine. We've talked all about that. I've done many videos on this. But they're being used by the government, the CIA. This is what I believe. I'm not going to present any clear evidence for that, but the circumstantial evidence will be pretty apparent as you watch this. But, like the Jim Jones, it's all created in that case by the CIA. And I certainly believe that, back in the days with Charles Taze Russell, I don't know if he was CIA. Of course, they didn't exist then. But he was financed and put into power by the people who are running the world. Since then, they've created other organizations like the CIA, where they could literally do their business right on television, before our eyes, and then have, Project Mockingbird running around mocking us and putting it on the news every day at 6 o'clock. But Jehovah's Witnesses are a peculiar organization. Now, remember, I've always told you that the Mormons are used for some very high up business in the government. I mean, they run them as presidents, senators, congressmen. Most of the FBI, young FBI agents, a lot of them are Mormon missionaries, because they go on this 2-year mission, and they learn some other language, and they're taught from the time that they're little. They're usually born and raised in the organization. They're taught from the time they're little to take orders, to listen, to know that there are secrets that they're never allowed to tell anybody. They're under oath, that their heart will be ripped out and that they'll be murdered if they don't keep their mouth shut. That if a Mormon that's high up in that organization, who's privy to all of this evil that they're doing in the world, come on, if they're in the FBI, they know about the evil that's in the world. I promise you that. These high-up Mormons cannot be just innocent. And it's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. But Jehovah's Witnesses are not involved in politics. They're involved in the money. They're involved in pedophilia. They're involved in some evil kind of crime ring where they're harboring pedophilia, perversion, murderers, wicked, evil people. If there's anybody in the world that is one of the elite children or whatever, they're caught in some sort of crime, they put them in the organization. It's kind of like what is this? These programs where you get a new identity and they give you a new license and a new name and a new address, and you live a new life, and they cover up all the evil that you had done in some other life. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses are doing that, because Jehovah's Witnesses are just told to keep their mouth shut. They don't tell on the elders, but they tell on each other. But they don't tell on the elders. And the elders, you can take stuff to the elders, and they'll just shove it under the rug, because the elders are all placed in positions because they're criminals. Many of them. Now, I'm not saying all of them. But if you are a Jehovah's Witness and you become an elder and you start witnessing the evil that's going on and you don't quit, then you might be a participant yourself, if you ask me. But it's much worse than any of you will believe. You'd have to see it for yourself. Now, I saw it as a Jehovah's Witness growing up. I was disfellowshipped at 18. But, you can never really believe that it's really as bad as your own eyes are telling you. I saw the corruption. I was disfellowshipped by the president of AT&T. And now I know why. I did nothing. They drummed up charges on me and my father. And of course, he later went back. He's still one of their elders and one of their chosen 144,000. But I saw what they had done. I mean, I could tell you stories, and I've told you some of them. I have not told you everything that I witnessed, that I saw, and what happened to me, for several reasons. One, I don't want, some of these people were my family members. I'm just not interested in exposing my own family for the evil that some of them have done. And I don't know. I fight and wrestle with it all the time, since it was all just sort of piddly things like, oh, maybe one of my relatives had an affair with the neighbor or whatever, cheated on her husband, or got away with it because they love the organization. As long as you say you're sorry, they shove it under the rug for you. But if you say, I'm confused, or I don't believe in this organization, or I don't know if I agree with 1914, or I don't agree with this or that, or you start talking about your confusion or your doubts, they call you an apostate, and boom, you're gone. And it doesn't matter. Like, I was just turned 18. I was thrown out into the world without family, without anyone to help me. And it was a very, very difficult time to lose your religion, to lose your family. But the elders themselves, conspired against me, drummed up charges that were false against me, and slandered me. And it wasn't just the elders. Like I said, this guy was the head of AT&T, and then they brought people in from the organization in these big immaculate suits, like some very powerful people came in and literally conspired with those elders to take this young man, myself, just turned 18 and destroy me because they knew that I did not agree with them. And if they didn't get rid of me and tell their congregation they could never speak to me again, that I would end up telling somebody what had really gone on, and they have to hide it and cover it up. So when I think about what they did to me, I was innocent. And then I watch what they did in many cases, but in this particular instance, where these people were not just pedophiles, they had not tried, they not only had that, but raping and children, their own mother, their brothers. The two brothers may have been, doing something, or we don't know what was going on because she's not allowed to talk about it. It'd really be gross if she mentioned and explained everything. But, she explains a lot of it. You should watch this. But these guys were elders. They were appointed after they knew that they had tried to kill their own family members. They ended up hacking up this woman with a machete, beating other people with bats until they died, doing it in front of a child just to because I guess they got off on beating this child's father to death in front of him. They I know this is getting very, what I'm telling you is so horrific and horrendous, but I'm telling you, you have to know what these people are doing. And it wasn't, remember, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society knew that they were pedophiles, knew that they were still raping people, knew that they were planning murder, and refused the woman who was murdered the right to leave this man who was about to kill her. She went to a mental institution. They would not allow her to leave. If she had left anyway, she would have lost her family. She'd have been homeless. She'd have been starving on the street somewhere. I don't know. It was a very traumatic thing. She went crazy. And when she got out of the mental institution, they met her at the door and chopped her up and put her under this is disgusting, and I don't even want to describe it much. But I'm telling you, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society did this and covered it up. And she's explaining, and I've said before, and that's hard for people to believe, but the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society is run by the CIA, the government, and they're there to harbor these pedophiles. That's why there's so many per capita of Jehovah's Witnesses, usually elders and ministerial servants, meaning like their priesthood. That's their kind of priesthood. These are people in charge that sit on meetings, elder meetings, disfellowshipping poor, innocent people, demanding that everybody do exactly what they say. Oh man, I don't even, let's just not even go into what I was about to say there. But they knew, they put them, first of all, this guy that was murdered everybody had gone to Bethel, which means their headquarters. And they knew, they sent him home because they said he was a pedophile. Rather than call the police or disfellowship him or whatever it might be appropriate to do with such a person, because he was trying to, we don't know. The Watchtower wouldn't say what he did, but it was so bad, had to do with perversion, that they sent him home. And when he gets home, they made him an elder. And even after he was an elder, he was still doing all this stuff, and they continued to shove it under the rug. So, before we play a couple of clips here, I want to make a statement here. I want to say something, and it's very difficult for me to say this. And I don't know how to say this, because I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, and I don't want, especially my own family, because I still love them. No matter what, I will always love you, my family, because I have a feeling that some of my family will listen to this video. And I just want you to know I love all of you so very much, with all my heart, and I think about you every day, and I miss you. And yes, I don't know what you're thinking or why you haven't really communicated much with me. I know you have your thoughts and beliefs, and you may, I don't know, for all I know, you think the whole thing was my fault. People have misunderstandings and people believe certain things. And the reason I'm saying this is because I recently had a conversation, I'm not going to say who. If that person is watching, they'll know who they are. And so I will say, before I even mention this, I love you. I love you with all my heart. And I don't want you to be mad at me. But I must tell you this because there's something you don't know. I'm talking to a family member, a very close family member. And this is maybe the only way I'll ever be able to get it off my chest, because they refuse to speak to me on the phone and let me and just talk, and so I can share this, so we can have some sort of meeting of the mind, so we can get it off our chest and talk about it and discuss it, so we can feel better, we can solve our separation, our pain. Maybe we could resolve all of this, but we can't do it because we're repressing all of these things. We don't want to hurt each other's feelings, maybe. I don't know why we haven't talked. I don't know why. Yeah, I know that this person and the rest of my family are probably good people. They're all good people. I mean, I believe they are. I love them all. Definitely. Most of my family that I know, all my close family, my brothers and sister and everybody was in my mother, and even my father, I love him. Although I think it's sad that he's so confused that he thinks that it's proper and right to never speak to his son again. For any reason, for whatever reason, or even if you think somehow or another you don't like me. I don't know how my own father would not like me. Right? I don't know. I can't even imagine that. I mean, I was only 15 when my father walked away from me and abandoned me. So I don't know how I could be responsible for any of this. But as regard this person that I wanted to say this to, here's what I have to say. You just don't know. I know you said to me once, we'll put it that way, that I had lied about my family growing up. Well, you weren't even near me. You didn't know anything about my life from the time I was, when I was 17, 18, 16, up till I was in my early 20s. You didn't know what I went through. You don't know, because you never asked me. You don't know what I saw. And so I don't know what it is that you think I lied about, because you said you watched some of my videos where I explained what happened to me, what the witnesses did. This person said that they don't like Jehovah's Witnesses either, because it's been many years and they're no longer a Jehovah's Witness. But they said that I lied about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I just, for the life of me, I don't understand why you would say that. So that's number one. I don't know why you said that I lied, and about my own family, that I lied about my family. And I can't imagine what you're talking about, honestly. But, because I've told the truth. Now, the only thing I can think of is that when I start telling or exposing what Jehovah's Witnesses did, it's a tendency that people have to poo-poo organizations like Jehovah's Witnesses and assume that really they're not that bad. They're wrong, but they're not that bad, and you shouldn't, lie about them and say they are. Well, you don't know how bad they are if you don't have the information and you aren't privy to this information. You have a lot of memories of what they did, but you shove it under the rug yourself, thinking, well, it's just people. Everybody's got mistakes, and everybody makes mistakes, and they're just people. It's not, it's such a surprise to them to think that Jehovah's Witnesses or Mormons or any of these groups could be working for the government to destroy families and murder people and harbor pedophiles. And you don't want to believe that, because you want to believe that the world is a rosy, wonderful place and everything is wonderful and people are just wonderful. And the government's, and all that you want to believe and hang on to because you want to be more positive, right? You don't want to be so negative. Well, I'm sorry, but your kind of positivism is killing us. And it's robbed us of a relationship for a long, long time. We can't even talk, because if I were to say anything, you would be upset. It would ruffle your feathers. Because, first of all, you think I'm some stupid little boy who's being all negative. I guess because, in your opinion, I don't believe in the government and the doctors, and therefore I'm a fanatic. Well, it sounds to me like, over the years, you've repressed a lot of these memories, and you don't know and remember just how bad it was and how awful it was on our family. Maybe one of the things that you disagree with is that this organization, when I've said it before, killed my mother. And maybe you disagree with that. But I believe that's the truth. And they tried killing me, and they have killed our family. And yes, it was because of the government. Not just Jehovah's Witnesses, all of them together. They kill families. They murder people. And it's not just that they're doing it because they don't know what they're doing and they're just imbeciles. It's human nature. But they're doing it because they're allowed to do it by the government. They're given a free pass, and the corruption is so wicked and evil, we've got to stand up and do something about it. You see, I don't know about anyone else, but I'm finally waking up and realizing that I'm not the one that's guilty. That I'm going to stop browbeating my own self. It wasn't my fault. And I don't care what kind of thing you can scrape up out of the cobwebs of our distant memories about me or anyone else, that, well, Dave, you were always lazy and you were, you went off by yourself somewhere down there in New Mexico. We didn't hear from you for a while. Yeah, because nobody gave a flying leap. I raised my daughter alone. Nobody called me to see if I was okay. And I know you've got some excuse, and I understand that, brother. I do. And I love you, and I know that you were having your own troubles and problems along the way, and I didn't call you either. Because I guess I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I tried a couple times, but every time I tried to speak, I'd go, I couldn't talk because we weren't seeing things eye to eye. And I didn't want to argue with you. I love you. We can't talk. Why? I'm tired of this. I'm tired of all this. How many years have we gone through and witnessed people dying mentally ill and sick and sad and bewildered and confused, dying in their heart and physically dying in their bodies, tortured, all alone somewhere hauled up in some little town in the middle of nowhere, all alone, with no family anymore, sitting around thinking it's all their fault because they didn't follow the organization rules and it was their fault and they're to blame and they're bad because what? Because what did we do that was so bad? Any of us? Smoke a cigarette or drink a beer? Grow a beard? What? What are you accusing us? What is it that they're accusing us of that somehow or another it's just okay to let that happen and never say anything about it? Don't you think we should speak out? Don't you think we should at least talk about it? Well, we need to talk about it. And I'll tell you something else. That's what you and I need to do. And I'm talking to my family member here. But now let me switch to you, the public that's listening to this video out there, the thousands of people I hope that will watch this. I need to talk to you too. This is why I'm being so honest. And this is why I'm so passionate about this, because there are people who are dying. And it isn't just Jehovah's Witnesses, but it's very seriously happening with Jehovah's Witnesses more than it should with any group of people in the world. And it's time to stop this ridiculousness. I know so many people have committed suicide and people that are just literally lost in their mind because they have no clue what to do and nobody to talk to. This is not just something that we should just forget about. Just sit there in our little rocking chair in our house, mumbling to ourselves and let ourselves perish without anybody knowing who the heck we were or know our name or why we're, whatever. Something must be done. And listen, all of you have your own stories. We were all beaten down. There's so many, CIA, the FBI, Jehovah's Witnesses, Jim Jones, Mormons, whatever. Black Lives Matter. These organizations, Acorn, whatever. There's so many different groups and organizations that are filthy evil. And it's time we stop shoving it under the rug. But I guess what we're going to have to do is wake up and realize this is real. And it's not just something that got out of hand accidentally. They're promoting it. The government of the United States is promoting this and allowing this corruption and this evil. And it's got to stop. And it's going to start by us being aware of what's going on. So let me show you what I'm really talking about here. I'll show you a couple of clips. And then I'll get back to you guys.
comment it says, "This is terrible, but it sounds like the family had many issues." Let me just scroll up because it's moving by pretty fast. So it sounds like the family had many issues. These murders were associated with mental issues and not being a Jehovah's Witness. Many family murders can be found among all religions, just not Jehovah's Witnesses. What would you say to that comment, Vanessa?
Well, the murders, that situation specifically was caused because of the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, people were put in danger, not only for elders covering it up and not, it's like, oh, here are these two brothers associated with Bethel, and, they've offended at Bethel, and they're on this list, and we're supposed to be keeping an eye on them. And then instructing these monsters to go find themselves a good Jehovah's Witness wife to cover up for their disgusting behavior. And, neither one of them had been married, with Clyde up until he was 54 years old, and there was a reason for that, And for them not to warn, for them to be put on a list in the first place is so that if they're in a situation where they could abuse and hurt somebody else, they're supposed to warn that person.
When pedophiles, child molesters go to court, the witnesses show up in favor of the child molester.
Oh, yeah.
Why do you think that happens, Vanessa?
Because they don't want it to get out. They don't want people to find out. And Jessica had tried to leave him. I've got text messages where she's like, I don't feel safe or comfortable. But she went to the elder, Rob Wilcock, that I had called on their wedding day to beg him to warn her. That elder then instead convinced her to stay. And I've got text messages about that where she's like, no, I made a vow to Jehovah that I married this man. And even though he's got severe mental issues and blah, 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 I need to stay by him because of this vow she made to Jehovah. And the elders were, instead of helping her leave, were forcing her, because otherwise she would have gotten in trouble in the Jehovah's Witnesses. You don't have grounds for divorce, sister. You need to stay with this guy. And her plan was, according to her sister, is that after the second baby was born, she was going to leave him. And so knowing that she was just a few short weeks away from getting out of there.
Well, one other thing, let's just, I hear you mentioned a few times in our little interview here tonight, that Clyde and Brent, the brothers, your uncles, they had an estranged relationship with your grandmother. Can you kind of let us know what you mean by that?
Well, there was the same thing also happened to my father. He would talk about it. She was a molester herself. She was dirty and gross and a hoarder, and she was the one that made them the way that they were. And her and Clyde especially were inseparable. He was one of those, 50-year-old virgins, that takes care of his mother for the rest of his life. Very Norman Bates. That I would jokingly kind of be like, yeah, my Uncle Norman Bates, And so when she passed away in 2020, knowing what they had said, for years prior, it's like something bad is really going to happen. It's going to be an interesting trial because Brent's facing the death penalty and a lot of things are going to come out. And it's it's been really hard to even describe it to people. Jehovah's Witnesses that take the doctrines and they take it to that next level of crazy, my grandma's, she was the kind that for Armageddon, what she was looking forward to is looting the dead bodies. Oh, this is terrible. But she was the kind of Jehovah's Witness sister that had these crazy beliefs about paradise, like, oh, all the bodies are going to have their eyes pecked out by crows, and we're going to need to take all of their things off the bodies, and then we're going to dispose of them and, create paradise of this bizarre, extreme way. And, how things are going to be more like Adam and Eve, she'd say. And, because then only Jehovah's Witnesses are going to survive Armageddon, and it's going to be like Bible times again. And she's like, we're the only major Jehovah's Witnesses in this small area, so we might have to repopulate the earth amongst ourselves. Like, that was the crazy. And she's the one that would play the piano at the Kingdom Hall. Remember before music? Yeah. Recorded music. She'd be pounding away on the piano, being all gross and weird. And but yeah, her thoughts was, because she had this large family, she would talk to me and my aunt. She's the only other girl, and she's only 6 years older than me. So she would, talk to us and say, you might be the only two girls of childbearing age when Armageddon comes. You need to prepare yourself to repopulate the earth, and you might have to do it with someone you're related to. Like, and other Jehovah's Witnesses were the same exact way. Like, and when you have that kind of crazy doctrine, those crazy thoughts in your head, and you're obsessed about people dying and, repopulating the earth and building the earth up into something, if you're already crazy, it makes it even worse,
I agree 100% with that. I agree 100%.
Yeah, she was in the hospital because she was being driven crazy. Like, she was losing her mind. She was wanting to leave Clyde, and the elders weren't letting her. The elders are telling her she's got to stay because she doesn't have grounds for divorce, and she didn't know what to do. Watchtower, though, the scary part is that it's people like Clyde and Brent that get Watchtower's attention, that get promoted to being elders and Bethelites and circuit overseers and stuff. Like, why is Watchtower so interested in the worst of the worst at the Kingdom Hall? Those are the ones that are giving instruction. Can you imagine? My Uncle Clyde was an elder as recently as 2015 and at Bethel. And for him, as a confessed pedophile, giving someone else or interrogating some sister according to fornication or something, he would be the one that would be in that judicial talking to sisters and stuff, or kids, and entrusted in the congregation. Okay, he did it, because it's not like he didn't threaten it all the time and try it on other people. Jessica had asked Brent to watch her dog, and instead of watching the dog, he took it out and he shot it. And I didn't know about that at the time, but just prior to him trying to murder my parents, he had shot my dog right in front of me. I had a Doberman Pinscher named Domino. And he shot Domino. His reasoning was he wanted to prepare me to get ready to lose something I loved, like for something that I loved to die. And so he shot him right in front of me. And that was a shock. And he's like, well, prepare yourself, because, that's going to, seeing Domino die is nothing compared to you're going to see your parents die right in front of you. And which is exactly what he did to Ty. Like, he, beat Clyde to death in front of Ty, and he chopped Jessica and the baby with the machete right in front of Ty. So.
Whoa. Yeah. Just chopped her up into little pieces. Well, guys, I have a lot of things that I could tell you about all of this. There's a court case going on right now, and we're going to hear a lot about Jehovah's Witnesses coming up. Friends, I'm going to go ahead and go. We'll talk about this more later. May the Lord bless you. See you tomorrow.